Alright, wait a few seconds. Well, last show of the year, everybody. Education by Ed. It is December 31st, I believe. Got to double check. Yep, December 31st, 2017. It is currently 5:01 Pacific Standard Time, PM. Ed, let him know your yearly words of wisdom.
Thank you. Anyhow, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I got quite a few little topics I want to hit tonight at the end of the year. See, this is the last show, even though I said last Sunday was the last show, but I was mistaken. Of course, it happens every once in a while. We're not always so perfect, even though we want to be, but it doesn't work that way in life. So it's just one of those things. You know, life is one of those blessing things in life that people don't pay attention to what the blessings are in life. And that's one thing I want to get into a little bit tonight about that one, because people do not pay attention to what the blessings are in life at all. They automatically assume things. They jump on the bandwagon of things without even knowing what the truth is. We all know how that one works. And that is a frustrating point of view. You know, and by the way, I want to bring it up to everybody's attention that disclaimers will be moving from Monday to Saturday, starting the 13th. Seeing that, you know, we decided that we're going to do it Saturday instead of Monday. We've had, like I mentioned before, over 30 people have changed from their Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday shows to Monday night. So the competition is I see what everybody's trying to do. So, hey, we're going to give it to them, and we'll start doing Saturday and Sunday. So then this way people know what the truth is going to be going on, and this way we could actually be able to get further education out there. We know that there's a lot of people out there that are bringing up interesting education. I just would like to suggest to folks to be paying attention to these circumstances of these other men and women. Some of these men are giving and women are giving certain advice. I do not, you know, I don't mind taking opinions, sometimes advice, but when you're getting advice that is putting people in jail, pay attention to these people that are putting them, you know, being put in jail. We are still working on to get confirmation through the Utility Commission with the state of Oregon for 192. We're trying to get that implemented. I just put in for the state of Oregon residents that people need to go to the website new.Oregon Trackers, as well as to the YouTube channels Civil War, 1866 Lawful Bloodline American. The other one that is a must-be to go to is the United States for America Republic, Elected and Public Servants Oversight. Then we have the Recall Cape Brown site that's still active, which I am doing more on that, and I'll get to that here in a minute. And then we have the New Oregon Trackers Facebook site as well. I do have a lot of these templates on these Facebook sites that you can download. Use them. You're a responsible adult, so use them at will. But just remember, you're responsible for your actions. Nobody else is responsible for them, only you are. So once you comprehend what responsibility is and you take responsibility, that is the blessing we all have in life. And we are blessed when it comes down to being responsible and knowing that we have lawful rights compared to legal rights. When people want to use the word representative, that means that you are putting your rights over to somebody else's responsibility, and you're saying that you are incapable and not responsible to handle your affairs. And, you know, that's the one thing that people got to realize these things when you have, with the state. I mean, I dealt with another issue where the state took another kid. I asked the people, circumstances, did they file this, did they do this? And it's like, well, why should we have to, I love it when people do this. Why should I have to do this? They're supposed to know the law, they're supposed to do this. Wake up, people. Their job is to rape, rob, and pillage from you. These men and women are Christians. That's their job. That's what Christians do. Rape, rob, and pillage. These men and women are Christians. People get off on me on the religious stuff, and I do appreciate the ones that have. We've sat on the phone off and on for hours sometimes, discuss religion, because I have the right to my knowledge of religion. They have their rights to their knowledge or their opinion. I don't go by religion from other countries. I will not do that because this is not another country. We are not owned by the British government. And as soon as these people start saying this and start realizing this, that's what two talk shows tonight are discussing on New Year's Eve, how the British government still owes the United States. And it really pisses me off when people do this crap and people go listen to these idiots and then they wonder why they're still in the system and why they end up in jail. It's like, remember, a lot of these people online, you got to do the research and realize some of them are actually lawyers and attorneys doing these shows. They need to keep you in line and keep you in the circumstances for their financial income. And if you don't comprehend that, watch a movie called Interstate 60. And I'm going to repeat it, Interstate 60. I recommend everybody watch it twice. You will see, and that movie will explain your court system, lawyers and attorneys. Remember, everybody keeps going, lawyers are not attorneys and attorneys not lawyers. Read the Bouvier Dictionary, read Black Law Dictionary. They're one and the same. There's no difference. There is no difference. Go to the American Bar Association when that was established August 21, 1878. The British Accreditation Registry to the King and Queen of England. That's what attorneys and lawyers are. There's attorneys that have got it on the internet, and I watched one on a talk show that I tried to get on to confirm it. He's going, I never signed up to be a British accreditation. Dude, it's in the bar license of your state. Anybody who's done the research on the bar, it says it right in the bar paperwork. So these men and women are paid to lie to you. When you pay an attorney, they are there to lie to you. If you pay an attorney and hire an attorney, you have no constitutional rights. You give your rights over to that man or woman representing you, and they could even put you in jail at the whims of their own discretion in a jury trial, even in a closed-door hearing with a judge. You don't even know half the time why you end up being arrested or held in jail. Attorneys will sit there and they know it violates your constitutional rights, but they'll keep you in jail because, oh, that right. They know where you're at, and they get funding, and the jails are a private corporation that attorneys and lawyers and some of your businessmen and women in your communities actually invest and own. Jails haven't been publicly owned, per se, until they privatized it when William Jefferson Clinton was in, and it started with George Bush. If you go back a little further, it goes back with Billy Carter, who was the one that started all this. So it's like, one thing people got to read real history, read the congressional record, read state history of the state, quit going by these men and women that doesn't even know history. I mean, I put out this brochure on Cape Brown for the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. Asked people to sign it, endorse it, and send it to Jeff Sessions. Department of Justice, they're waiting on this from you folks. They're waiting on it. Alright? I mean, it's time for you to be men and women and quit whining. Because once we start filing these instruments, and I will have the other one for Cape Brown coming up here, I'm almost done with it. And once that is done, and you start autographing these things, okay? Once you start autographing these things and send it to the Secretary of State, the State Attorney General, and Department of Justice for Jeff Sessions, we can actually get the government back, we the people. Everybody keeps saying, oh, it ain't our government, we don't want the government, close the government down. Well, okay, we shut the government down, and let's go back to the old days where we strapped guns on our hips and go to the street. I don't care. I'm ready for it. I'm not bashful. But that's the point, that you have to realize that what you want for your children.
If I may. could you get a little closer to the microphone, Ed? Because we can barely hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Is that better?
That is much better. Thank you.
Alright, sorry about that, folks. But it's like the point is realizing what the truth is, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and responding. And like I talk to people that say, I don't have to file this paperwork. Why should I? Well, number one, you have to prove that you're a lawful American. There's no such thing as immigration, what is that called, baby boomer, anchor baby crap? Doesn't exist. Wake up to the reality. Me and many men and women have filed on this through the House and Senate to put back immigration policy. Where the United States is not open to the world, folks. You have to realize that once the food is gone, once the borders get open the way they've been open and we've been invaded, we've already had 100 million people invade us. 100 million since the 1940s. Those 100 million have created 200 million by birth. All right, you got to realize that they say that there's 387 million people in the United States. You go back to the 18th century, we didn't even have 100 million here. And when you open up the borders and you let these people come into your home and rape your children and steal from you, and people say, oh, they don't rape, they don't do this, wake up, quit lying to yourself. There's videos all the time of children being raped by immigrants. Court cases of children being raped all over the internet. Judges allowing these immigrants to walk freely after they rape children. Judges know this stuff because they know it brings money into the courthouse. Remember, these people don't love you. They don't care about you. They care about the income for themselves. And that's the other point when my computer comes up, I'll read the structure on money again. Because when you're paying debt with debt notes, it's a federal crime. And that's the one thing that people have got to start accepting these truths. You have to accept the real truth on what's going on in this country, and that's the one thing that people do not accept. They go, let's open up the borders. We want to help these people. Well, let me explain one thing. We're spent $500 million to Islam. What the hell are we spending money to a terrorist country? Oh, maybe Jesus was born there. Sorry, I hate to tell you, folks. Jesus was not born there, and it's a joke. Wake up to the reality of the truth. Quit living in fantasy. And it is, folks. Most people live in fantasy. They do not live in real reality. That is a true statement. And as soon as people start accepting what's really going on in history and what's going on around them, I mean, pay attention to what's really going on around you. Pay attention to what's really happening around you in your environment. Your cities, your counties. You know, I mean, I sat there and watched them, Salem, Oregon, sat there and bus 500 immigrants in 2 weeks into Lincoln County. Then they ended up on welfare. Then they got housing, and then the housing that was supposed to go to lawful Americans in the county went to illegals. And then not only that, they were paying for hotels for these illegals to stay at. And so when you're homeless, and you bitch why the veterans ain't getting homes, and then you bitch why, you know, when you become homeless and there's no programs for you, well, you gave your programs to the foreigners. You did. You gave them to them because you want them in this country. Oh, they're going to help us. And it's like I'm arguing with a guy the other day going, what? These people come in and they do the jobs we won't do. What kind of crap is that? Shit, I used to go out and basically shovel shit. I worked in plumbing. I went out and picked vegetables myself. You know, when people say this, they get so stupid, mentally retarded thinking that people are going to take a job that, you know, they're you know, a foreigner is going to take a job that we won't do. That is the most retarded thinking I have ever heard in my life when people get to say that. And I was arguing with a guy the other day on this, and he's like, well, you know, they do all these jobs, and we need them at McDonald's. Well, the other point is we don't need McDonald's when it comes down to it. Read the ingredients in the food at McDonald's. Seriously, start researching the food you're eating at the restaurants that you're going to. Realize what the food is that you are getting in fast food restaurants. Is it real food? What kind of food is it? You have to start realizing and researching what you're eating. Because like I brought this up before, Japan and China actually serves human meat in the grocery stores. It's not a joke. They actually serve cadaver meat. So when people sit there and they don't realize what they're doing, or they don't want to know what they're eating, and then you wonder why, you know, you have the tempers. Like tonight, I'm having a soda. I don't normally drink sodas. But, you know, how many body parts are in a soda? That's the one thing people don't realize. In donuts, how many body parts are actually in donuts that come from manufacturers? Because it's like Safeway and a lot of these places really don't make their donuts from scratch anymore. They really don't. So you don't even know where the food is coming from. The rice that's in the grocery store that comes from China, Jamaica, most of that is plastic. It's not rice. And when you get stomach aches when you're eating food and you start feeling the stomach tightening up and you're wondering what the heck, realize you ate something, your body's sitting there going, hey, this ain't what you're supposed to eat. So these are things that we're actually living with the responsibilities of what's going on. So anyhow, then the other point that I'm finishing up is the structure for private land ownership. Lawful American ownership, because immigration are not allowed to own land in the United States. Foreign countries are not allowed to own land in the United States. I support Donald Trump with his next order coming out saying any foreign government that has land in this country, we're claiming it and taking it back. You got Democrats and these people whining all over the internet and Facebook. Oh, they can't do this. Yes, we can. It's our land. We don't have to allow immigrants in this country. People go, we're a country of immigrants. No, we're not. We're a country that has been invaded, raped, robbed, and pillaged by people coming into this country, called invaders. They brought their religion to this country. They brought their beliefs, their holidays, their structure to this country. You know, I'm waiting to see Cinco de Mayo Day end, like Columbus Day is ending. Cinco de Mayo, my toe. Because the thing is that this is America. How come we're not having real American holidays? When people do the 4th of July, you don't even know what 4th of July means. Most of the people don't even have a concept of what 4th of July is really about. They really don't. That's the saddest part. The kids don't even know. When you ask kids about structures about this country today, from 10 to even 25, 30-year-old, even 30-year-old adults that claim to be adults, they don't even know the real history of this country at all. You talk to them about a Game Boy or a computer game or something to that effect, oh, they know all that, but they don't even know anything about their own country. And it's really sad that we're actually living like that in our country with people like that who don't even know what's going on in our country. So the one thing is that when you are purchasing land, preferably purchase it from a landowner. If you end up going through a bank structure, make sure that you cross the property taxes out of it. Make sure that you put 42408 Section D on that paperwork, because you're not to use your Social Security number, because that's a federal crime. See, I'm just suggesting things to you. I'm no lawyer. I'm no attorney. I'm nobody when it comes down to it. But I read this stuff, and I hate to see my fellow men and women in this country going through the living hell of hell we are living today, that we are living basically under Nazism today, no different than was going in the 1930s and 40s in Germany. We are no different then than we are today. Cops shooting each other in the street, shooting us in the street. We got all these nutcases going out. We need to get rid of their guns. You know, I mean, the one senator, oh God, well, I can't remember the senator's name. He ended up where he was in a restaurant and a shootout happened. And he's an anti-gun senator, never believes in them, believes that everybody should have guns. And he finally changed his tune. Sometimes it takes somebody almost getting murdered or shot where they start realizing, hey, it's better to have arms on you. Because most of the time, you know, people have arms and we get taught this belief that everybody has a gun, we're going to end up shooting each other in the street. And it's like, when people start talking like nuts and basically morons, all right, these people need to leave the country because an average man and woman doesn't want to be shot, doesn't want pain. And that's the point that people don't get it. We get these arguments and these tiffs that go on, and people don't see what's going on with your own land. I have signs that we have on new.org and trackers. I suggest that you put it up. I suggest that you file your rights with your city, county, and state, and make sure it's recorded in the Secretary of State's office. Once it's recorded in the Secretary of State's office, then file it in your county clerk's office. And then once it's filed in your county clerk, then serve your sheriff. The sheriff himself or herself is the only lawful constitution authority in the entire county that you live in. The police department and all that, they're not, you know, they take an oath to the Constitution. They actually do. Then when they go and get hired by the city, county, or state, then they take administrative rules oath, they get rid of the Constitution so they can rape, rob, and pillage. And that's what they do. You know, that's the one thing that these men and women do. They rape, rob, and pillage. As soon as you start accepting that you have elected and public servants, you know, I get really frustrated when I've been on talk shows, other talk shows, or I talk to people and they start going to government. And I love saying, all right, they go, well, government. I said, so in other words, you're not part of the United States then. Well, I was born here. My family goes, I said, no, you're not, because you're using the word government. That means you're not, you're giving your authority over to a foreign agent, so you're not part of the United States. So we the people. Even if you're a legal immigrant and you talk that way, you're not part of we the people. You're a domestic terrorist. And realizing that these attorneys and these people that are on Facebook, and everybody goes, oh, well, Facebook should be private. No, we want Facebook to be public. Because when you put the information up that you put up, or your affidavits and this type of stuff, you want to make sure it's published. You know, I thank the young man who put Facebook together for all of us. And actually, most people really should write the man a Facebook thank you letter to him, thanking him, because how else were we to get all the education and information that goes on right now today? How do we keep in contact with each other in this country right now today? If it wasn't for Zimmerman, we wouldn't even have any of this stuff going on. Let's wake up to reality. Quit going to win percentage. Oh, these people, what kind of bullshit and the mental crap are you playing on your own self? Now, Donald Trump, a week ago Wednesday, passed administrative rules that, oh my God, if you file on these terrorists, write your criminal charges on these men and women, it's your responsibility to protect your children. It's your responsibility to write your affidavits. The district attorney does not work for you. District attorney works for a corporation. So does the judge, unless you make the judge work for you. And I do plan on, we'll do a talk show on that next year, after tomorrow. We'll do a talk show on explaining how to deal and handle a judge in court. But I'm watching what people are doing right now. I mean, I'm working on several cases with some people besides the one I'm trying to get done with Kate, and I got mine I have to do too. And then once I get my other one done, I'll have that publicized in the next 2 weeks. Because I'm going to have that one done, and so that way you can actually see what the structure is really on property taxes. property taxes are a voluntary structure. Wake up and smell the coffee. Unless you are elected in public servant, a registered voter. And people go, well, I'm a voter. And I said, well, you're not an American then. Because you gave your rights over to the British government, because voting is part of the British democracy system. We are not a democracy. We're not a republic democracy. We're not a democracy of anything in the fashion of the devil's structure. We're a republic form of government. We have a constitution. No injured property, no property damage. I don't give a shit if the guy's on a motorcycle car goes by you and you're doing 60 on the freeway and he goes by you at 120 miles an hour. He's going to...
Appeared to be without a speaker at the moment. I don't know if he accidentally muted himself or if he got disconnected. So we will wait a short bit for him to return. And I do want to take this moment to thank everyone for listening in on Education by Ed. And
are you going to jail now? What kind of morons are people? Morons! People are morons! They're doing this to their children. Morons! They're telling them that you don't have a right to live. They're telling them you don't have a right to breathe. And if you don't follow these administrative rules, the cops are allowed to shoot you on sight. You know, in 2 years, we've had more cops murder 5 times more people than any what they call grand national shootings. And you could do the research on most of those shootings. Sandy Hook wasn't real. A lot of these bar shootings and stuff that they put on TV. I mean, the one in Florida, the gay bar. I'm watching live videos that people were showing live videos an hour and a half before the so-called shooting happened. They're walking people in, carrying the people into the bar that's already taped up, got wounds on them and all this stuff. They're carrying them into the bar. I was amazed. I got the people that were sending me this and going, Ed, just whatever you're doing, quit it, watch this stuff. So I started watching it, and then an hour and a half later, next thing you know, it comes on the mainstream media and then all over Facebook. You know, Orlando had this shooting. And they were carrying the people in. Watch the videos. They're still up on YouTube right now today. Type in Orlando shooting, people being carried. And you can watch them doing it before it even happened. A lot of these things, I remember growing up in California when we used to do staged events in the school with the police department, the fire department, and do staged accidents at the football field. And then realized that people do that. Oh, I'm hurting, and they do all this fake acting. You know, I mean, we got one lady that's been a fake actor in 7 major shootings. She's all over the internet. I mean, you can see her, you know. I mean, it's just amazing with some of these people who they're getting paid by the Democratic Party. And these are why you're not able to own your land, because you're too busy not filing your rights to own yourself. You're too busy where you're not filing and owning your children. You're too busy that you're not filing and owning yourself. Because when it goes to court, John F. Kennedy's case with the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act, John F. Kennedy, former president that was assassinated in collusion with the British government because he was going back to the greenback. And by the way, folks, quit listening to this bullshit that the Queen of England is not running the Federal Reserve. The Queen of England is running it through the bankers, Soros and all these other people, from the Vatican. From, you know, don't forget, the Pope came out and said, all you Christians have to join us. We're one world order now. And do your research. You'll find out the Christians and Roman Catholic were together 1,000 years ago. Don't forget the Christian Crusades. What happened with that? That was part of the Roman Catholic structure. Don't forget the Christians were the ones with the Roman Catholic that killed supposedly Jesus. Says it in the Bible. you know, don't interpret the Bible when you read it, folks. Shit, I've been to Bible study and people interpret this and they do that. Read it for what it says. Not only that, the Bible even says God is Satan and Satan's God. It says it in the Bible more than one time. And then you want to go by a Bible that says that God is Satan and Satan is God in the Bible? And then if you go by Old Jolly Saint Nick, look it up. Old Jolly Saint Nick is the devil. Saint Nick is the terminology for the devil, Satan. Christmas is another satanic holiday. Christmas was founded by 1841 Macy's department store in downtown London. You know, everything I tell you can be verified. I put them in instruments. I've served them around. They've been publicized even in newspapers. I've sent them to newspapers. I've sent them to the House and Senate. I've even testified to this stuff on public hearings since 1993. So, I mean, I'm not making this stuff up, folks. So, read the Bible. It even tells you in the Bible that God is Satan and Satan is God. Pope Francis and Pope Benedict even came out to the world and says, hey, God is Satan. We worship Satan. And if you look at the clothing on the Pope Francis and Benedict and all your popes going back even 500 years, all of them have the Nazi symbol on it. Don't forget, the Roman Catholic Church and Christians were involved in the crucifixion of the Germans, doing that to the so-called Jews. That's what gets me. Why the hell are we sending money to Islam and the Jews? It's not our responsibility to pay these foreign countries. It's our responsibility to pay and take care of the children of this country. It's our responsibility to make sure that elected and public officials are doing their job, and if they're not doing it, going to jail. It's our responsibility to make sure our water, electricity, and food bill are compensated under House Resolution 192, and so our children are not being brought up in debt slaves. Because every time you use a dollar bill, that racks up the national debt for the British government called the Federal Reserve. So when a dollar transfers, that, you know, everybody goes, well, with transfers, we know it increases debt. Well, yeah. You're using the dollar federally in a criminal activity, creating the debt. House Resolution 192 was set up for lawful Americans not to create the debt. Donald Trump is finally figuring this out. When he put the executive order he did a week ago Wednesday, which I was glad to see, now what I have filed on the Cape Brown, and other people are filing on their criminal charges around the country, you need to include that and prove the structure and write how they kidnapped your children. Right, how they were able to prosper for your children off of Title IV Social Security. That's how they're stealing your land. That's how they're stealing your children, because you're allowing it. You know, I mean, like I said, I'm working on cases, and some of these people have called me where they're finally writing their stuff, they're getting it. Others are just like, oh, they call me when something happens, and it's like, did you ever do this? Did you write that paperwork? Did you ever write what actually happened? Well, no, I don't have time to do that. And it's quote wasting my life. I have a life that I like to live and breathe. My life ain't just to be wasted for people who don't care about their children or who don't care about themselves. If you care about yourself, then we can start working these things out. I mean, I noticed it was interesting because I got emails from many people that all of a sudden, all these people decided to have a New Year's Eve talk show. Of course, I thought it was interesting because most of these people don't even have New Year do anything on Sunday. But, you know, it's like I know because of what I've been doing and what I bring out and what I file, I know these men and women are following me. They know that the cases are going through courts. They know that when the cases go for their children, they got their children. And it does work when you file that with the hospitals, with the board members, that instrument that I wrote up and put out to the general public to file it and own your child, and you have to file it before your child's born. You have to claim that existence, because once the parasite becomes life and it comes and screams and yells in the world, if you don't claim it, the state's going to claim it first. And remember, the state gives you 30 days when that child's born to claim it. If you don't claim it, that's when the state sits there and takes that child. You know, and they'll even take a newborn right out of the hospital, but you didn't file your paperwork. This happened. I've got three personal cases that I've dealt with where people didn't file their paperwork, but at least they were able to talk to the state attorney general, and they knew what they were talking about. They were educated. They filed their paperwork after the fact, so they got their child back within that same day. But you have to file this stuff ahead of time and make sure that these people comprehend what they got in their hands. Because federal law says they cannot deny you medical services. That was mainly put in place to protect the immigrants, because they're making all this money off of their birth certificate that they created for them. Remember, the birth certificate bond only works in the United States of the 48 states. It's not in Canada, it's not in New Zealand, it's not in Australia. We're the only ones in the world that has the structure of House Resolution 192. Nobody else does in the world. And when these people from other countries like Canada, I know some of the guys up in Canada that keep going off and using our laws and their structure and educating people on talk shows in Canada, and then they wonder why their Canadians are ended up in jail because they did this, that, and the other thing. Well, shit, it doesn't work up in Canada. It doesn't work in New Zealand. You're owned by the Queen of England. You have no rights. Remember, the Treaty of 1213 and the Magna Carta is from England. I put out in the structure right now with the emails I've been putting out into the entire House and Senate and the news media too. I actually do have the 1993 Queen of England stamp stating the one-page Constitution, the original Constitution, is the law of the 48 states. When it came to 48 states, and that agrees to the Treaty of 1871 with the Vatican and the King of England back then in 1871. So I've got it where it's all over the website. It's up there. I've turned it into House and Senate. I've actually paid for it and had it published in several news medias around the state, asking people if they disagreed with it, asked law professors and all these people if they disagreed with it, Judge Carson and all them, sent it to them, asked them if they disagree with it. Nobody's disagreed with it. So the Constitution is the law of the land, and then you get these people that will go on and say, we're British colonies. People, quit biting into this crap. We had the Civil War, we kicked their ass. We had the original war of 1774, 1775, kicked their ass. Don't forget, we had the War of 1812. People go to the Paris Treaty, but then again, you have to go back to the original Paris Treaty of 1783 versus the 1812 Paris Treaty. And remember, both of those treaties are written with the British government, not of we the people of the United States. Read it. It's written with the British government, not of we the people. The point, people need to read this and read what it says, not what they get told or programmed by some classmate or programmed by some other talk show that just does this. I listen to these talk shows where they go off. I try to get on the talk show, and, you know, it's like I was listening to this religious talk show last week, and they were going on about this country, you know, being part of British structure and how we need to respect our elected and public officials and bow our heads, and we need to do that. And some of you guys know probably the talk show I'm talking about. It's on Facebook. A lot of you guys have responded to me on different emails about it over time. So I tried to get on, and I wanted to nail these people on their bullshit that they're doing. Man, they cut me off and hung up on me real quick because they didn't want the truth known. And I asked the guy that's hosting it, that's hosted several other talk shows, and I asked him to prove his statements. And it's like, oh, God said this and God said that, and I don't have to prove anything. And it's like, here's the law, here's the way it is. And when I got into it and nailed his bullshit, then he hung up on, cut me off on the talk show. And people I know were listening, and that's what I'm saying. These guys don't want you to know the truth, because if you're not giving, it's like I was arguing with another gentleman. You're 10% to the church. If you're not giving your 10% to the church, you have no rights. You're not paying your way into heaven. What kind of idiots think that God needs money? Paying my way to heaven. What kind of idiot thinks that they're buying their way into heaven? Doesn't work that way. It's mind control. It really truly is mind control, folks. When you start thinking about that and doing that, you're living under mind control. Where does it say God needs money? You go back in history, Jesus never dealt with money. Who knows if there really was a Jesus? We know it was created by the church for mind control anyways. That's a proven stuff. You've got preachers and religious men from the Vatican themselves speaking out now, telling people the truth. It's a fraud and a joke. Type it in where the priest says God and hell ain't real. They're coming out and they're starting to say that you know, these are 40, 50, 60-year-old veterans that were in the church. You know, and a couple of them dealing with the Pope Vatican that came out and started speaking this, that. Shit, this is mind control. It's like the Pope Francis says, we own the world, we own the banks, we own you. Well, they own you by a birth certificate if you don't claim you. And I will have that indictment out for Kate Brown here in the next few days. Hopefully, I was trying to get it done this weekend, but I ended up on a couple other things, dealing with a couple other people trying to get their comprehension on their cases so that way they can file their paperwork. And that's the one thing, is getting this stuff done, because when you have your children kidnapped and held for ransom, or if you've been kidnapped and held for ransom by traveling for your rights in this country, and remember, if you are a legal immigrant, and if you're kidnapped and held, so long as that you're paying your income tax, so long as you're paying your licensing and registration fees and all that, you're paying those men and women the Constitution right to protect you too. See, our bloodline already died in blood for our freedom. You're paying your way into the freedom once your children are 5 or more generations. Then they are free. Your forefathers, or our forefathers who wrote the Constitution, knew this. People go, well, they wanted us to have religion and the government, and you know, church and state should be combined. Hey, morons! They didn't write it in the Constitution. They said separation from church and state because they knew it. They knew in England what the Christian Crusades actually did to them in England, their own ancestors. You have to realize when they came over on the boat and left England, they wanted to leave England so that way they weren't crucified for the same thing that some of their own ancestors and parents were crucified, because they didn't want to go along and believe what they were telling them what to believe. Benjamin Franklin and all these men and women who came over here started hanging out with the natives and started realizing what they were. I mean, come on, George Washington hung out with the Cherokee Nation. Some of his own family members married the Cherokee Nation men or women, and the structure of the Cherokee Nation. They got it. They were paying attention. They were learning about the freedom of what men and women was doing here. I was having another conversation with another guy that's trying to explain to me, oh, that they weren't raping and murdering people. And I'm like, you know, well, Wounded Knee went through that. Of course, prior to Wounded Knee, they were shooting natives and raping them, and then taking the children and cutting their hair and putting them in adoption programs and, you know, Christian schools. That's right, Christian schools. Back in the 1800s, they were stealing them and putting them in Christian schools. And then I'm arguing with another gentleman, or having a conversation, not really arguing. He goes, well, the Indians had slaves. The Indians did this. Yeah, everybody had slaves, but when they got caught, they got killed. Okay, that's like saying that, oh, and everybody wants to go after the KKK bullshit. Wake up. The Democratic Party and the British government are the KKK. Look it up. That's why when Donald Trump went for his inauguration, that's why all the senators, female senators, wore white. The KKK outfit. Even the black senators were in the KKK outfit. So it's like, you know, step out of this and produce and realize what's going on. I mean, yes, we do got a screwed up what people would call society. I want to see where we start having adults start standing up. We don't need to go out and have shootouts. It's like this Chicago councilman asking for the United Nations to come into our country. What the hell is he a councilman for if he can't handle the responsibility that people allegedly voted him in for? You know, you want to bring in the United Nations called the British government and the German government of Adolf Hitler? The United Nations is still run by Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler's foundation structure with the British government. There's no difference. Read it. Read their foundation paper. Read their starter administration paper of the United Nations. You know, don't go by what you see on TV and shit. Go research and put up the United Nations and read their foundation of the paperwork when they got started in 1941. Remember, they didn't form until 1941 after World War II. We can't forget that we won World War I with the British government. And then when they went to bankrupt to us, when Woodrow Wilson in 1918 signed the Banking Act, that's why FDR put it in the executive order clearly states, all citizens and nationals are enemy to the United States and we the people. It says it right in executive order, and in the 1917, that complies with the 1917 Trading with the Enemy Act. The Trading with the Enemy Act was founded for George Prescott Bush. Prescott Bush. Because he committed treason. It's like, you know, this is one thing that people don't realize. And then somehow, you know, the Bush family is still there. And, you know, I mean, it's really disgusting that a lot of these people are there. And everybody's shocked. And I watch people attack Donald Trump. I don't vote. I'm not in the system. But Donald Trump is doing the best thing for you. And then you got this other guy that's going around the internet trying to convince everybody that we need to get the college votes out. We need to do this and stop this. And I just made comments to that on the internet where I was being attacked by people on that. And it's like, you stupid fools. Well, actually, I wrote on Facebook to these people, you're stupid fools. You go along with this crap? And then their response to me is, oh, you're a Trump supporter. You voted for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I don't support anybody in public office when it comes down to it. But these people assume because they are slaves themselves. They are not free thinkers. They're programmed people. Most people are programmed. They react. They don't think. But that's the point that I try to get to people before they do stuff. Think before you react. It's your responsibility to think before you act. Once you think before you act, then we can start seeing this country change. We want our elected and public employees either honorable or shut their agencies down. We don't need their jobs. We don't need their employment. Imagine what that would do to the national debt that the British government does, because your city, county, and state are billed to the federal British government. Your British government is the national debt that you keep saying is our debt. Not our debt. When people of the British government have employment, they're raising the debt notes, the national debt, and that's why in the actual act, when you read it, in the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act as well, and the March 9th, 1933 Administrative Act of FDR, when they created the paper money by the Federal Reserve, all elected and public servants, registered church members and voters, and all immigrants mandatory are to pay taxes in the tax code itself. But also, too, the IRS is not part of the government. The part of the government is not here because the IRS is a foundation from the Vatican and the Queen of England right now. Was originally left here in 1789 by King George when he went back to England. And most of those IRS agents back then, when they tried to enforce stuff on the peasants back then or the local communities, were actually killed or shot. Due to the real history going back to late 1700s and 1800s, IRS guys on the West Coast were shot. We didn't have any of this stuff on the West Coast. All that crap came from the East Coast over the West Coast. I mean, 1990, I'm arguing at the Lincoln County Commissioner's office or public hearings because now they want to start taxing timberland and people outside of the city. This is 1990, folks. We didn't pay taxes outside of the city. This is where people, they watch these movies. It's like when you watch movies, even going back to the movies in the 1930s, they always say, the democracy. They get paid to say the democracy. That's their job, to get paid that way. Remember, they're actors. They get paid to do this stuff. They get paid to sell their soul to the company store. So when it comes down to your land, I recommend you go to the county assessor's office. Get all the information there. Go to the county recorder's office. Get all the information they have there. Go to the assessor's office and ask the assessor for the exempt form. Because the assessors are supposed to have exempt forms for taxes in the assessor's office. And I got to find one because I actually had one that was sent to me from Lincoln County. And they do exist. I actually seen it, and I had one in my possession, but tried to find out what stack of paperwork that ended up after the last year and a half when I got it. But they do have these things in it. They do have exempt forms by the state taxes as well. When you go to a job at a W-4 form, if you ever read the W-4 form, it actually says on the W-4 form, in a little spot on the form, it says mark X for tax exempt. So all it says is just a little thing that says mark X for tax exempt. Taxes are voluntary, and when you pay your state and federal and property taxes, it goes to the Queen of England. It doesn't go for your services here. Those services are already counted off your birth certificate bond. Type in John Kitzhoffer, March 31st, 2017, stating in the Portland business section going, I don't know why Kate Brown is not writing off that $1.9 billion off the strawman account. I remember telling him about this back in the mid-90s. A lot of these people were looking at me like I was, huh? What is he talking about? And then he said this last May 2017, type in John Kitzhoffer. Look it up for yourself. I put it in my instruments. I put it in my instruments to the Oregon State House and Senate for the 25% return for lawful Americans for the lottery funds. I actually wrote in the structure too. If any immigrant that claims the lottery, there's no discrimination, folks, with immigrants. You got to wake up. The Constitution is for we the people. Immigration, it even says in the Constitution that immigrants don't have rights. That's U.S. Code 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, Section 3, 4, and 6. Aiding and abetting an immigrant or an illegal is a felony. Hiring an illegal is a felony. Hiring a legal immigrant is a felony. All right, these men and women, these Democrats, these attorneys are rape, robbing, and pillaging because they're raping our land. They're raping your children. They do. Not only physically, but they do this for money. How many children, 10, 12 years old, get taken from their parents? Then they go to the state, and the children are actually physically searched, strip searched, raped. Some of these men and women actually finger the girls to see if they have anything in them. And they're virgins, and they pop their cherry, and then all of a sudden, that's acceptable? I mean, come on, folks. I mean, and then people go, oh, Jesus Christ, so we need to do this. It's like, you morons. Jesus Christ had nothing to do with it. People allow this to happen to these children getting assaulted and raped. People accept it. Oh, I'll pray to Jesus. He'll go away. It already happened. It doesn't go away. You can live in fantasy on, some Disney program and put your mind in a Disney program and go that route. But once it happens, it's not forgiven. It's not just that it ever didn't happen. You can't say it didn't happen when you lived it. And there are men and women that today that used to be children that actually physically lived this stuff. It's like, you know, some states, you know, they have marriages structured at the age of youngest 12. I totally disagree with that. I don't think that, you know, 16 maybe, 18 realistically. And you really think about it, 25 is when people start having a clue in life. But when we're 16, 18, you know, we're so smart, we know everything in life. So, you know, sometimes we need to go through hard knocks to have our eyes open. That's like what the British government is doing. They have gone after kids in their schools in the British colonies and says, British colonies, they're not supposed to have friends in school. All the way to middle of high school, you're not supposed to have friends in school, because if you break up with a friend or you have a fallout with a friend, you don't need those emotions. And they're trying to do that in the United States right now. How do you expect children to know their own feelings and emotions if they don't have them? And then when they're 16 and 18, all of a sudden this happens to them, and then they're setting up to commit suicide? I mean, our kids that have been so pampered, when shit happens, they take their own life, and it was deliberately done. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberately done by the people around them. You know, people, I didn't know that was going to happen. Hell, what are you, that stupid? You can't pay attention? You didn't see it? You know, you don't have to go through Psychology 101, 2 and 3 to see this stuff. A man or a woman is supposed to have an eye open and pay attention to the surroundings and see what's going on around them. And that comes to your property. That's your property, your boat, your jewelry, your personal effects. A man and a woman, each other is property of the other. Claim your property. Either the woman's with you or she's not. If you don't claim her, somebody else will. If you don't claim your child, somebody else will. This is why people go through the stuff that we're going through today, and we wonder why these things happen, and then we're wondering, everybody's bitching. Stop bitching. We have a government in place that we the people own. We the lawful bloodline Americans control it. We are the government. And once you start taking responsibility of yourself, of your own public servants, once you start being responsible and read their administrative books, people go, well, I'm not a lawyer, I shouldn't have to read that. Well, then get the hell out of the country then. That means you're not an American. You don't want to have responsibility in your country to be an American. People will tell me all the time, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to file these paperwork. I shouldn't have to do that. The judge is supposed to do that. And I get people all the time that will call me up after they go to court. Well, I told the judge this in court, and I said this to the judge, and I told this to that public pretender, and I told this to that district attorney. They said, oh, so you're hearsay witness. In other words, you lied in court. And they get offensive. What do you mean I lied in court? You lied in court. It's hearsay witness. It doesn't exist. Well, they recorded it. Hey, you go get a recording in a court and see if they altered that tape. That's what I tell people. I don't tell anybody nothing. I go to court. I've had people record me in court, and I've got Mr. Walker was the last one who recorded me in court when they tried to put him in prison for recording me. Frank Landry did the same thing, and they arrested him for recording in court, my court proceedings, when they were trying to put me in the state jails for months on end for telling people like you the truth. They don't want the truth known. That's why I tell people, look at what I filed on Cape Brown, 1938 Foreign Registration Act. Yes, I think it's 43 pages long. I've had some people say, well, Ed, it jumps around. And I said, well, it jumps around, but were you able to take a pen and paper and walk through it and put it together and you comprehended it? Well, yeah, but that's what we had to do to get it. And they said, good, that's the point. You had to do it so that way you learned. And if you didn't know it, now you know it. And if you knew it beforehand, now you're sure that you knew what you were talking about. That's the point that people have to realize, that this stuff is set up for we the people. We the people have to be responsible for our actions. We the people are responsible for our elected and public servants. We the people are responsible for our neighborhoods. Who lives in our neighborhood? Who moves into our neighbors? I mean, when I get neighbors that move into my territory, I'm the first one on their doorstep. I want to know where they came from. I want to know their criminal record. I want to know who the hell they are. People go, well, you don't have a right to do that. Hell, I don't. I want to know if they're a terrorist. I want to know if they murdered somebody or if they assaulted somebody. I want to know if I have to watch my back or if they had a misjudgment in life and they learned from what they did. Because people do that. They do learn from their mistakes. So that's what I want to know, if they learn from their mistakes. And if they learn from their mistakes, you can't argue with somebody that made their amends. And that's the whole point about life, making amends, making sure that things happen correctly. Now, everybody's doing these New Year resolution things for tonight and tomorrow. I'm going to start my New Year's. I'm not going to drink. Hell with that. I'm having a shot of rum. I'm not going to sit there and lie to myself. I'm not going to sit there and lie to people around me. Well, you can make all the New Year's resolutions you want, but the bottom line comes down to, is it going to mean anything? My New Year's resolution is to write the other instruments on Cape Brown in the House and Senate that I've already been serving. I'm writing it on the public employees that destroyed my family back in 2005. It mattered to me. It didn't matter to her. And that's the one thing I do know about a lot of women I've watched. They just go to the next bed. They don't care. Women are trained that way. Or it's instinctive. And very few times do you have an honorable woman today. And if you got one of those in your life, don't let it go. Because honorable women do take care of their men. Very few of those do take care of their men. Most of them all have to have control over their men. And that's the sad part today, that, you know, when an honorable woman and man that take care of each other, they don't argue. When something happens, you know, man or woman says, I have a need, and the other one responds, hey, that's what life's supposed to be about when you're with somebody, taking care of one another. People forget that simple part of life, and it is simple. It's called personal responsibility, making the truth or making the things happen that you agreed to, that you wanted to have somebody in your life, instead of going through the circumstances people go through. So with New Year's, this year ending, you know, I do ask people, you know, reevaluate what you've done last year. Look at what you're going to accomplish this year. Accomplish, not argue, not fight, not do stuff, but what you're going to accomplish. And if you're going to accomplish a file to get your kid back, get your kid back. Write it, focus, learn the law. See, before I got to the point where, like I'm speaking to you right now, and I talk about the laws, administrative rules, and I go through the court cases, and I bring this stuff up, I had to go learn it before I could talk it. I had to go learn it before I could sit there in a public hearing and spout off. I had to go learn I knew what I was talking about. Like in the one paper that I did, and I had to find the paperwork, but I went back and found some of the old newspaper articles on the internet. It took me a while. But in 1999, when they closed the Oregon Coast Fisheries down, I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt Patty Burke lied in the Pacific Marine Fishery Council. I proved that the Department of Fish and Wildlife stole the fish quotas because until the year 2000, the state of Oregon literally had subsistence fisheries and hunting. So long as that you were lawful in this state and territory, you didn't need to buy a hunting and fishing license, including natives. But they convinced the natives to buy hunting and fishing license through the tribes. That's what gets to me. You know, people don't research. They don't get smart. They don't, you know, they just follow and do what they're told. Like Romans 13 of the devil's book that I call it. Romans 13 says, I shall do what the Bible tells me to do. I shall not argue with a pastor, minister, a cop, a representative. I shall do it. And I got a cartoon I put out. And it is true. The cop will tell you he's your minister when you go to court. He's no different than a minister. Judges and ministers are one and the same. They're the messenger of God, they claim. The judge will tell you that courtroom is his. People go, that's your courtroom, huh? It ain't their courtroom, folks. They're administrative administrators. That's it. When you go into court, you ask them for their license and bond. You ask them, can I see your constitutional contract oath that you took? And they'll go, well, we're talking about this case here. We're not talking about me. We're talking about, no, yes, we are. I want to know if you have legal or lawful authority here. I want to know what we're doing here, if you're correct on what you're trying to do with me. I would never go into court when they say my name. I was not, and people say, well, that's not what I'm representing myself. No. That's the given name. I'm a bloodline American. I want you to prove your authority that you have over me. I want to see your license. I want to see your bond. I want to see this structure or that structure. And folks, you do have the right to ask this. People have asked it. It's like, even one gentleman, 90, was pushing it, and that's one point all these people were following 90, but not one of them actually wrote a damn letter to the judge, or not one of them actually did anything. 90 got his ass kicked a couple times in court pretty bad, I heard. But all these people don't give a goddamn ass because not one of them stood up. I wrote his damn case, sent it in. I'm the one who brought it up. And then when he started attacking me on the phone one afternoon, I said, to hell with it. I'm not going to be disrespected in any fashion. I'm not the one that's in the situation when people ask me to help them or give them ideas or suggestions. What really pisses me off is when people sit there and they don't back each other. You see it on the internet, Facebook all the time. A lot of us see it on the internet all the time with other people. They'll bring this stuff up on the internet. I guess they got this thing coming up on the 3rd, from England. Of course, it's from England. The people that are bringing it up ain't from America. And they're going, oh, well, we need to not charge. We need to do this day where nobody buys anything. Nobody travels. Nobody spends money on groceries or food. One day we're going to hurt the economy. Well, let me tell you one thing. That'd be interesting to see if you could have 10 or 20 million people do that in one day, because, it'll take at least 30 million people to do that in one day where it will have an effect on the economy. Otherwise, a few thousand people, if they do it in a local community, and let's say you're in a town of 5,000, and you got 200 people that do it, hey, now you might hurt the local tax structure, yeah. But otherwise, when these people do this stuff and don't file their paperwork and go after their rights or hire an attorney because they get talked into hiring an attorney and paying all this money out, or signing part of their disability over to an attorney that's supposed to go defend their child, come on, folks. Wake up to what these people are doing to you. If they can't rape and rob and pillage from you one way, they're doing it the other. There's no difference of how they're doing it. These men and women don't care about you. They don't love you. They don't want you in their life. They just want your money. They want your personal assets. If they cared for you, they wouldn't be doing a lot of this stuff. It's the one thing that amazes me with a lot of these people, what they do. They sit there and shell money out to all these programs out there. Or they're going to shell out these money that I'm going to shell out the $500 because these people are going to walk me through on UCC violation or UCC code so I don't have to pay my bills. Write on your check, issue your check, write some certain on it, and then learn how to do it. Done through your checkbook, your checking account. It's not done through UCC. A lot of people who do it from UCC end up in jail. I even got recent court cases on that, where people who use the UCC get caught up because when you use UCC, you're going through the IRS. And that is actually called tax fraud. It's knowing, learning. Don't get caught up in these positions that people do this stuff. Don't get caught up in this stuff. Don't lose your children. Don't lose your structure. Own yourself. It's up to you to own yourself. If you don't own you, how do you know what's going on in your life? And that's where people get, people tell me, I don't have to file. I don't have to do this. Why should I do it? It's not my responsibility. It is your responsibility. And that is the point that you can't, when you do it, you sign your stuff over to the state, and then you wonder why the state does this and the state does that. And doing this to your children and doing this to the people around you, well, you're allowing it to happen. So, anyhow, I've been fighting my computer here, trying to get back on. Because I wanted to get into the deal with the money again, but I'll bring that up tomorrow night, I guess would be a good way to do that, to start the new year. Because I want you folks to realize what money is. Money is coin. Money is silver, possibly gold, mainly silver, and barter. That's what the whole structure is barter. People got to realize it's barter. And that's the one thing that people don't comprehend, the real truth of life. They don't comprehend what life's about. Everybody wants to argue. Everybody wants to do this, that, and the other thing, but they forget what life's about. And we're living life. And so that way, until we change the circumstance and know our children, know our bloodline, know what's going on in our community, know who's living in our community, knowing that our elected and public servants have responsibilities and liabilities. And then when I do put this other instrument up that I'm putting together on the Bar Association, I'm going to be opening up a lot of people's eyes to that truth. Because you can't run and hide from the truth, and I'm putting it all together. They wrote it, I'm quoting it. So it's not a conflict of interest. And it even goes through the American Bar Association, through the courts itself. They wrote it, I'm quoting their words. And that's the point that we need to do this, is quote their words. Use their responsibility. Of course, I get this stupid email from Alec Baldwin trying to do Baldwin, going after Donald Trump. So I don't know if it's his deal or not, but I'm going to definitely find him on the internet and send him some information and tell that actor to take the sun where it don't shine. Because if you look at, if anybody's heard of anything called People for the American Way, People for American Way are Islam. They're not even Americans. It's not American way. They try to get you to go along with this crap from foreign countries to dictate to it. You know, and that's the one thing that people don't get. Our country is so screwed up. And we're allowing these terrorists to run our life and destroy it. Because remember, we're supposed to be protecting our children. And on new.org and trackers, we are setting up a homeschool program on that. So people can sit there and comprehend, know what's going on with the structure, educate your kids on the truth. If we don't sit there and educate our children or your children or whatever in this country of the truth, there is no future. And it's up to you to educate your children, because like you said. So anyhow, it's New Year's. I'm going to cut it off a little early and let people do their thing. First, we're going to open up the board to see if anybody would like to bring in any thoughts or conversation into the round table.
All participants are unmuted.
One thing that I do remind people is that in 2 weeks, we're going to go from Monday to Saturday night. So we're going to start doing that, so that way we're working on Saturday and Sunday. Because we need to start doing this stuff, because everybody wants to do the Monday night talk show, so I'm just going to let them have Monday night if they want it. It's interesting that so many people have jumped in and done this, changing all this structure. And it's just amazing to me when people do this stuff. You know, I mean, I've had other people that I know, that decided they were going to do another talk show on Monday to go after me because they didn't want people following me and getting this, because what were they saying? There's no such thing as lawful bloodline Americans. We're all slaves. We're all this. And we have to go through this. Well, when people say that, just remember, these people are making a living off of you. Most of them are attorneys. Most of them make a living off of your structure for doing that. They don't care about you. I do have the actual, let me see if I can look this up real quick so we can get this. I want people to comprehend this one. I want to make sure I get this out to people because people are panicking right now saying, well, if I don't sit there and pay this new tax called health care, what Obama put in place, I'm going to jail. Folks, it's voluntary. There is no law that actually states that you have to pay health care. It's an administrative rule that was put in place by a terrorist called Obama, who's not even an American. And you could even type in Obama. He even admits it at public hearings. He was born in Kenya. He wasn't born here in the United States. Not at all. So that's what gets me, how all these people support domestic terrorism, because I'm a Democrat, so I do this. Well, Democrats are not Americans. Democrats are mainly from the British government of British Isle. So that's why I ask people to really look into the stuff when they're researching it or claiming to be part of something. Read it before you even admit to something, so that way you know what it is. Where did I put it? I thought I put it in here. I'll have to find it again, because I know I could have sworn I put it in the structure, but apparently, well, I'm going to bring this up now. I already was going to do this tomorrow night, but 18 U.S. 8, obligation or other security of the United States. Yeah, and the one thing you want to do, and I bring this up, I think we should have it on new.org and trackers, is modern money mechanics. And read the structure of 31 U.S.C. Code 3124. When you pay taxes with a reserve note, a federal debt note, it's a federal crime. That's where people have to comprehend that this is a federal crime when you do certain things. And some people are going to jail. That's why they use this and go after a select few people. When they start attacking people to put them in jail, that's what they do, is they go after a select few people to do that, so they're making income off of it. That is their goal. That's what they do. So I just want to bring that up to you guys, so when you start researching this stuff and you know the truth of why this happens, or when you end up in court or what's going on, you sort of see what the truth is compared to what people are led to believe. So apparently I don't have that in front of me. I have to find that deal, because I actually got the federal deal. I thought I put it here on this one site, one of my other sites, but apparently I can't find it. I was going to give you the code. I'll do that tomorrow night, and I'll make sure it gets on the website, so the new.org and tracker site, so you can actually see that there is laws that says you don't have to pay medical costs taxes, because medical taxes like that is a felony, a federal crime. And this is how they keep you inside the structure to keep you controlled, and that's exactly what they do. So with that, I already said like 10 minutes ago I was going to open the floor up, so let's open the floor up and see if anybody would like to speak. Just go ahead and open it up, and then we'll see if anybody wants to speak, and if not, we'll just call it a night. Hello?
Floor is already open, Ed. It was opened about 10 seconds after you suggested
Anybody
it.
there?
And no, we are.
Are we there?
Yes.
I guess we're not.
All right. Ed evidently
We'll
has some
floor,
issues.
We're not doing that tonight.
See, this. Well, I guess that'll be about it, guys. Sorry about this.
Huh?
Are you there, Ed?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, so you switched phones?
Yeah, apparently I thought I had my speaker on. Apparently I didn't have my speaker on.
Yeah, so you had about like a 3-minute time lapse that you weren't talking at all, so I started talking to cover up for you.
Oh, no problem. I didn't realize that. I thought I had my deal on, so I appreciate that. I didn't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't either. It just, now the floor is open. It was open when you suggested it. So,
Okay.
now I'm going to go back into the shadows.
Okay. Sorry about that. Miscommunication on my point. I thought I had the deal on my phone on that. Apparently, somehow it went off or something. I don't know what happened. So, but anyhow, if anybody would like to speak up, and the floor is open.
Can you hear me, Ed?
Yes, go ahead.
There's something that's kind of interesting to me.
Okay.
Side note here. Can you see? Have you heard of the Holy See? Oh,
yes.
You mean the UCC? Can you? UCC. That always strikes me funny. I've used the UCC many times over the years, but it always strikes me funny as to they put a U there, and it's like, hey, you dummy. See?
You got it.
See? UCC. I don't know if you can catch it or not, but in a way
I caught it. No,
yeah.
I caught it, and I know exactly what you mean about the Holy See, too, as well.
Yeah, okay. That was it for now. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing, too. And, well, like I said, I still looking forward to some of that information, too, so we can work on that and pass that around. But that's the one thing that people don't get. And like I said, when I did file on Pope Francis, I did file on him for recorded record that I did file him with the Holy See itself, too, so that way there was no conflict of that one.
Yeah, okay, you see.
Yeah, no, I got you. Most people don't get that one, UCC. You know, Holy See. I like the way you brought that out.
Yeah, Public Law 288 on the Devil's Code. You may cite it as the Devil's Code.
Mm-hmm.
I always like the way they put it, where it comes from, but most people don't go to the foundation in 1963.
Mm-hmm. And what year was that? 1963 when it was formed?
It was 1963. That's part of the reason John Kennedy was killed.
Right.
Because he started understanding the money issue, and that he was going to sign us up under the Roman Catholic law.
Mm-hmm.
And he started wising up, and that's why Vatican wanted him eliminated.
That would have been Executive Order 11111110.
Well, that's 11,110, but that was after that. I'm just talking about what they put in place in 1963, what the law was under the UCC, the very first law.
Right, and that's why Johnston rescinded his
money.
Right, and yeah, that was sad because his wife went.
I'm talking about Public Law 288 and 43 and 44.
Okay, yeah, we need to get that.
Where it may be cited as DC Code. I always call it the Devil's Code.
Yeah, I got you on that one.
Yeah, it comes from Washington, D.C. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm going to let you go and let somebody else talk, okay?
Yeah, what was the public law again? I want to type this up so I can make sure I get those put up on the site, too.
It's the 288.
288, okay.
Yeah, 43 and 44.
43 and 44, okay. Yeah, no, I like putting up the Devil's Code, and that's the one thing that people don't comprehend. it's like they don't even comprehend what the Treaty of 1213 and the Magna Carta really is.
Well, yeah, and the instruments that they had to use, they had to come through, quote, quote, Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
That was the power source.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So that would control Congress and the complete Republican and Democrat system. Yeah, it's kind of sneaky what the Democrats did and put together back in 1963 when you put all the documents together.
Right.
They did lie, cheat, and steal and deceive the American people.
Yep.
And it was done with a knowledge from a lot of the pastors, preachers, shepherds, and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been in slavery, a form of slavery ever since. And
I know.
that's right with that.
And that's
I
the
know.
point.
Well, you know, one time I claimed the child for a party I was helping, and I had over 300 people in the courtroom. And the judge says, I don't even know if I can sit on this case. He says, we're going to reschedule 8 days from now. And the sheriff come to me and says, what is it you want for these people? What do you want? And I told him what I wanted. They got it.
Right.
Anyway, I'll let somebody else talk, so go ahead.
Yeah, and I plan on getting a hold of you, too, because I got a couple other questions what we were talking about what I want to finish up. Oh, by the way, you got my other email, didn't you?
I don't know which one it is. I've got one the other day, Wednesday, I think it was.
I think it was the one I sent you for the 25% of the lottery funds to come back to We the People.
Yeah, I did get it.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, if we could get that one put in place, that's going to change a lot of things, because then that way what she just did on a 37% increase, that sure to hell is going to screw her over.
Yeah, it's hard to focus on everything. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Okay, let somebody else talk, okay?
All right, we'll catch up with you soon, and you have a blessed evening and a Happy New Year to you.
Well, same to everybody else. Happy New Year.
Yep.
Here we go.
Anybody else would like to chime in?
Bueller.
Okay. Well, then I guess we're going to end up. When I'm talking about UC Code 2, Title 43, Public Lands, you know, I plan on hitting this stuff pretty hard here pretty soon. I'm doing the paperwork and writing these affidavits up so that way it can be filed. And when I do the treason charges on Cape Brown itself, that means everybody's going to have to file that in Oregon as witnesses, because when it comes to treason, it takes 2 or more witnesses for treason. And if people don't stand up for this stuff, then, you know, you really get tired of listening to people whine like little children and not willing to stand up to what's going on in this state. You know, everybody wants to bitch about this. They're tired of being kidnapped and held for ransom. They're tired of being assaulted by the cops, kidnapped, you know, I mean, their children being kidnapped. Well, this is the point, folks, where you have to start standing up and be men and women. You know, I mean, I know that we've been so mind-controlled and beat down so mentally, we don't even know how to stand up and have any strength, and most people don't. And most people are willing to go to the Bible and pray for what? And I really ask you, pray for what? If you don't stand up for your children, what are you praying for anyways? You know, let's come to reality here. Because you can pray for anything you want. You can pray for everything that you want to do. But until you stand up for this stuff, it is not going to be a reality. And that's the point, that you need to stand up for your children. You need to file your rights of paperwork. And that is the other point. Like I said, I got stuff that I'm working on UCC. I'm trying to get more information out there. Like I said, I own my UCC. I don't use it because anybody uses my UCC paperwork or filings, It's identity theft. They already got it filed. They got investigations going on it right now. So that is the point. What's going on is that you need to start standing up for your bloodline, and that's the circumstances how it's going to work. That is the one thing that you have to start realizing what you're doing for yourself, your children, your structure. So, seeing that nobody else has got anything to add, may the Great Spirit and Mother Earth bless you. May the Creator look over you. And plant food, collect rainwater. The reason why they don't want you to collect rainwater, the main reason, is because that way you can't sue them for putting the poison in the air. You can't sue them for poisoning the water. Because when you pay for your water by the cities, they are knowing that you're paying for poison. And they know this point because, see, you're agreeing to the term to take that poison in your body by their legal structure. Unless you file with the city and say that, you know, we're having the water tested by an independent deal, and that's what I'm working on too, that we need to get the water tested by independent people. We start doing that. That's how we're going to start getting these things accomplished, getting these things ahead and done correctly. That's the way it's got to be done, the way it's really got to be done. If we don't get that way, we're not going to start getting things completely done in this country. You know, it's like vaccinations. You know, people go, let's get the kids vaccinated. You can't get a vaccination because you don't go to school. That's a lie. So you got to remember, these men and women lie. That's their job. And they're Christians. All of them are Christians. You know, you hear them talk about Christianity, and you hear them talk about they're Christians, and that's what they do for a living. Well, that's scary when these men and women claim to be Christians and doing this to the general public. So with that, I would like to say Happy New Year. Let's this next year make sure that we've got the filings on these elected and public servants. Let's make sure that the kids are claiming their bloodline, knowing their history, where they came from, knowing their history, who they are, where they are, what they're about. You know, it's up to you to make sure you know your children, and that way you know how to educate the children, and they need to know. They absolutely need to know their past. They need to know where they came from. So with that, have a good New Year. And like I said, may the Great Spirit and Mother Earth and the Great Spirit and especially the Creator look over you.
Thank you, Ed. This has been Education by Ed. It is December 31st, 2017, and it is currently 6:33 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have a good rest of this year, and may next year be full of lawful Americans.